So using a games approach to coaching, meaning players play basketball, and while they're playing basketball, we're coaching them in the context of the game. So I can hold at a specific point in a situation when they're playing, say, live 5-on-5, 4-on-4, whatever it is, and then I can give them context either with questions or some type of coaching intervention in the moment when they're playing basketball, and then letting them follow that information, that feedback, with playing more basketball in the context that we coached it. So that's what I mean by a games approach. So coaching them while they play the game so they can connect perception and decision has been something that I feel coaches have really connected with and really understood more.
Welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the coach Brendan Suhr, presented by Noah Basketball. Today, one of my dearest friends in basketball, the great Chris Oliver from Basketball Immersion, is our guest. Chris has been an excellent college coach in Canada at the University of Windsor, where the Detroit Pistons, the bad boys, used to have their training camp when I was coaching there years ago. And it's just across the beautiful Detroit River from the great city of Detroit. So I know it well, knew Chris. He is one fabulous coach. His innovative style of teaching and coaching is a game changer. You're going to hear things you've never heard in coaching. I don't care if you're coaching in the NBA, at a Power 4 school, a high school, it doesn't matter. You're going to come away with some new ideas and thinking of how to coach. This game is all about coaching. If you can have coaches that can really teach and have these players improve and get better, you got a better game. And that's what this man knows how to do. But I want you to listen very closely and be open-minded to new ideas, because that's how you get better. So after this quick timeout, from our sponsors, we're going to come back and hear Chris. But first, a reminder, July 12 and 13, Coaching You Live in Las Vegas is taking place. All NBA affiliated speakers. I think you're going to love the speakers we have this year. The best teaching in the game, NBA ideas, all there, on the court demonstrations with a great college team. Our friends from Arizona Christian University are the demonstrators, and I think you'll just see, and you get to be able to participate by asking questions right down on the court, because of the intimate environment that we have created there for you. So I think it's 2 days of unbelievable learning. I think you're really going to enjoy it. It is an experience, once you've had it, that you'll want to come back year after year. So remember, go to coachingyoulive.com/2025 for further info. And for those of you that can't make it, or from another country around the world and aren't coming, we have usually about 15 countries outside the U.S. that come every year. But if you can't, go to coachingyouplus, plus.com, to subscribe to our app, where you get every clinic that we do all across the world is on there. Some of the very best NBA and college coaches on down. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Our podcasts are on there. Our coaching courses on there. I think it's high-level stuff. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So go to coachingyouplus.com. So after this quick timeout, we're going to come back and learn from the great Chris Oliver. Noah Basketball is our new presenting sponsor of our Coaching You podcast. Noah Basketball is a shot tracking and data company that has helped change how coaches and players perfect the game's most important skill, shooting. Noah is a data service provider that uses machine learning and the latest computer vision technology to provide real-time data and feedback to improve shooting accuracy and consistency for professional and amateur basketball players. Noah has now analyzed over 570 million shots from countless high school, hundreds of college teams, and 28 NBA franchises. The technology is simply amazing. Once the system has been installed, players will be able to get immediate feedback on their shooting arc, left and right positioning, depth, makes or misses, and makes the data available to players and coaches on your mobile device. For more information about how Noah can help your team, visit noahbasketball.com. Coaches, are you looking to take your game preparation to the next level? Then Fast Model Sports is the perfect coaching software for you. With FastDraw, build an organized library of plays and drills and create professional playbooks to share with your players and staff. You can also download over 9,500 free plays and drills from our playbank directly to your FastDraw account. Looking for a better way to build your scouting reports and want to include video? With FastScout, build custom scouting report templates to prepare your team best for each individual opponent. Plus, did you know with the latest updates from Fast Model Sports, you can now include video with your FastScout reports and share with your coaches and staff all within the FastScout mobile app. The combination of FastDraw and FastScout is by far the best way for you and your coaches to create winning game strategies and effectively communicate them to your team. Over 10,000 high school and youth coaches trust Fast Model Sports products to help their teams reach their goals. To order, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw or FastScout products. Remember, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw and FastScout products. Okay, we're back from our timeout with the great Chris Oliver, a longtime friend. And as I told you in my intro, Chris and I have been incredible basketball friends for years now. I'm a big believer in him, number one, as a basketball man. I'm also, as a human being, I love him. And what he is, the type of character of a coach, is a role model for everyone. But I think the biggest thing that he has done, I convinced him to move from my beloved Windsor, Canada. I love Windsor. It was where we used to have our training camp with the Pistons, where he was the head coach, as I mentioned, at the University of Windsor for years, out to beautiful, sunny, most of the time, California. Chris, welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Brendan. Much love to you as well, and to Zach behind the scenes. I'm just so grateful for you and Zach and everything that you guys do for basketball, but for me personally as well. And yeah, I always say to people, I mean, I moved for palm trees, not politics, and I'm loving California and everything about it. And my daughter was at the park this morning getting reps in outside, and it's just a beautiful place to be able to be, and just a very peaceful place.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I, years ago when we first met, you know, it's funny. I feel I have this. Luckily, I have a strength where I can quickly see people and evaluate them really quick. But I can also do that in our business of basketball, and I can tell right away, literally within minutes, whether someone has that talent to coach. And I just fell in love the first time I ever saw you coach and teach, and I just became a believer and stuff like that. And I think, you know, for you, it was just a way that you got started because you got to go to some places. You've been a faculty member of ours at Coaching You for years, and people now all over the country and now the world really know who Chris Oliver is. And what you've done is you've really, and what I thought you would do is you kind of retaught us, the elite American coaches, how to think about coaching a little differently. Your long-term impact on coaches, what are you most proud about? And I know you have a long ways to go, your impact, but what if you think what's your contribution so far?
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I remember some of those moments when I first connected with you and presenting at the Florida Clinic, you know, and presenting in front of people like yourself and Del Harris, Larry Scheid, all these people. And when Del Harris stood up and said, hey, this is the direction that we need to go in basketball. And what he was referencing was just more emphasis on decision making. And I think that's the legacy, no doubt, is that to just get people to think more like we're so technique focused. Okay, well, what's the technique? How are we pivoting? How are we doing a layup? How are we picking up the ball? Well, sure, I'm not saying technique's not important, but ultimately the power of the decision and how much the importance of the decision influences, obviously, the application of the technique. So for me, it's decisions, adding decision making to drills, adding a defender to drills, like I shared at Coaching You so many times. And then I'd say the second thing is just literally the power of playing more basketball to get better at basketball. Brendan, I know you're like nodding your head, and I'm nodding my head, but people grew up different 30 years ago, 20 years ago in the game, right? Where we just played more free basketball, more unstructured basketball, less organized basketball. Kids don't grow up that way. It's not their
Nope.
fault. It's not their fault. They just don't grow up that way anymore. So we have to accommodate where they're at, I feel. And I think that type of thing that I've put into the universe for the last 10 years or so has been really that. Let's play more basketball. Let's represent the game more in practice. And then you reference that some of the high level coaches. Like, I'll be honest, somebody told me a story the other day about a coach basically repeating word for word something that I said. And this coach didn't, and this is a high level famous coach everyone would know. And this coach didn't even know at that point that that came from me, because it's now 2-3 degrees of separation from us.
Yeah.
Everything you've shared, Brendan, everything I've shared, somebody's shared it, somebody's adopted it, somebody's adapted it, and now it becomes their own. And it becomes this own piece of kind of like thing that just spreads throughout the universe. And it's so incredible to be a part of it. And I don't know, hopefully people can hear my gratitude to be a part of this and a part of that experience in the world of basketball.
So when you're, and again, I've seen you teach in small environments and in front of very big ones with some guys that are not that experienced at coaching, and also in front of some of the very best that there are in coaching from college and NBA level. How have you seen coaching mindsets and methodologies evolve over time? Because this was not the way they were thinking. They were totally, I call it the 75-year mindset of all these guys that are, above 60, 55, that are coaching. They're not as young as you, that are coaching. They were taught by someone who is very good. And then all of a sudden they teach the same way. So my God, they're teaching something from 75 to 80 years ago. And, there were rotary phones back then. Now, that's not, we would never, we don't communicate the same way. And so how do you feel that, are you making that impact or just skimming the surface?
Well, the words I hear people using now, definitely, I feel like the impact is coming. I mean, we can think about it in relation to analytics and how much analytics has changed the way that people talk about basketball. We talk about math when it comes to basketball, and coaches at all levels, from the pro to high school to youth, can speak some analytics and speak some intelligence into validating what their theories are relative to the math. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think it's made us all smarter as basketball coaches. I feel like the same things happen with what I've shared, which is the how to teach better basketball. It's not what to teach. Brendan, we can both share a ton of things. Well, we think we should teach this. But no, it's the how to teach and bringing power to that. So using a games approach to coaching, meaning players play basketball, and while they're playing basketball, we're coaching them in the context of the game. So I can hold at a specific point in a situation when they're playing, say, live 5-on-5, 4-on-4, whatever it is. And then I can give them context either with questions or some type of coaching intervention in the moment when they're playing basketball, and then letting them follow that information, that feedback, with playing more basketball in the context that we coached it. So that's what I mean by a games approach. So coaching them while they play the game so they can connect perception and decision has been something that I feel coaches have really connected with and really understood more. Because I think about it, like if I ask you or someone in your audience and say, hey, do you still play pickup basketball? And they say yes. And I go, well, are you doing shell drill before you play? Are you doing zigzag drill before you play? 3-man weave before you play? No, you play basketball to get better at basketball, and that connects for people. The other one, if I could just share, is the constraint-led approach. The constraint-led approach, this is something that's evolved over time, but I think a lot of coaches in basketball weren't speaking about this at all until I started sharing it. And it's become a part of a lot of coaches' collective consciousness of understanding that, look, the drill is not the solution. How you manipulate the constraints of the drill, whether it's space, time, rules, the players, the scoring system, however you manipulate those things is what can shape behavior and develop skills in the context of the game. And I feel that and the games approach has empowered coaches to be more intentional and creative in their space design. And all of that leads to this, which is the bottom line, removing fluff, right? How many coaches just basketball practice looks like a dance recital? Well, let's not have it look like a dance recital. Let's have it look like a basketball game. The more that your basketball practice looks like a basketball game, the more that information is going to transfer for a player. And that removing the fluff of things like 3-man weave, zigzag drill I referenced, but these things are on air and don't really help a player connect information to the game. Removing those things, I'd say, has been another big change in mindsets for coaches. Where I heard one really famous P4 this year has decided that they're not going to do any 1-on-0 anymore in their player development in the offseason. They're going to do everything guided or live in their workouts. Because again, that connects skills and decisions for a player rather than separating them. Because, if the greatest player in the world, what do? Mostly they train on air. They train with a trainer by themselves. They get good at moves on their own. So now they get to connect skills and decisions with the support of a coach in an environment where they're safe to explore possibilities. To me, that's development. And I'm grateful for all the coaches that have helped adopt and adapt those mindsets.
So we're both educators. And the big thing is I've been trained in education. And I remember when I was doing my undergraduate work, they used to always talk about transfer of learning. And coaches, many coaches, do not understand that. And I would always say drills do not, I'm talking about now. I did all the drills as a player, as a coach. Then all of a sudden the light bulb went off. And then all of a sudden I said, you know what? These players are bored with these drills and they can't transfer them to the game. When did that aha moment come to you? Were you still at the University of Windsor, or when did that happen?
It was actually in my same situation in a way that I was doing my master's degree, and I had really kind of high level skill acquisition, motor learning professors around me that kept questioning things, and it wasn't questioning things much like you and I don't. We're not telling people they're right or wrong. We're not. That's not 100%, our job.
100%.
We're here to be able to say and ask a simple question: is there a better way? And to me, that's what these professors were doing for me. They were challenging me constantly saying, okay, I see you're doing this drill, but what do you think this drill actually transfers to the game? And that's the key part of what you just said. None of it matters if it doesn't help a player in a game. So if I'm doing an on-air closeout drill where they're closing out to literally no offensive player and there's no decision, then it's just purely technique based. And we know that technique in a game only exists in the context of the environment in which it's applied. And the environment is relative to your offensive check, your teammates, the other players that are on offense. Like there's so many variables that are distracting information and visual stimuli. And as soon as we remove those, the thing's less likely to transfer to the game. And it doesn't have to be like full live offense versus defense all the time. It can be guided. I mean, going through the pro game, the power of the walkthrough. But in a walkthrough, we had offense and defense on the floor often at the same time. So you could see both sides.
Exactly.
So doing different things like that can really, really help players kind of transfer more information to the game. Teach it, connect it for them. Connecting it is the why. And then transfer relates more to the perceptual information and the decision than the technique. And that's proven through evidence-based research through many, many, many years. So mine goes back that far where intuitively understood it. And you said a really important thing too. Ask your players. Ask your players what they really like about basketball practice. And I know, look, it's not just about the players liking it, but it's about the players buying in and saying, this is actually helping me individually get better and helping my team succeed. If they're saying those things to the drill you're doing or to the activity you're doing or the game you're doing, then you're doing great things as a coach.
Years ago when I was with Chuck Daly with the Pistons, he showed me something, and I had worked for some of the best pro coaches, Huey Brown, Mike Fratello, and now I'm coming to work with Chuck. And all of a sudden, there comes a time when you have to scrimmage. And so I've been where we put 12 minutes on the 12-minute quarter on the clock. And Chuck said, okay, we're going to scrimmage now. Team with the white jerseys, you have the ball. Red jerseys, you're on defense. 2 baskets win. I said, what the hell is he talking about? 2 baskets wins. So I'm watching this, and all of a sudden, offense against defense, ball goes in or misses, fast break back, make or miss, fast break back, first team to score 2 baskets wins. And I said, why are we doing this? Why aren't we playing 12 minutes? He said, did you see how hard they played defense? Did you see the decisions they made? They didn't want to turn the ball over because they would lose. Did you see how they went for offensive rebounds? Because they knew that if they could get a rebound, they could make a shot. Everything that was important in the game, but it also taught competition. And so all these things, and I said, it totally revamped the whole way I've ever coached. And what happened was I named it controlled scrimmage, should have just called it Chuck scrimmage, but and now I teach it all the time. And when I went to one of the last schools I worked at and I told the coach, this is what we do, he said, I don't do that. He put 5 minutes on the clock. 5 minutes on the clock. At the end of the 5 minutes, the score was 2-0. Because all we're doing is shooting, missing. 2 baskets. That's all we had to do.
Can I just build on that? Because that's
sure.
Brilliant. To be honest, that's a great example of a constraint. And by the way, a lot of coaches are using constraints. Maybe you don't know the CLA framework, but you're using constraints. That's a constraint. A short score increases intensity, right? Because there's like an immediacy to it. Well, the other beautiful thing is, and I would challenge coaches to think about this, I absolutely believe I could spend a whole season of just doing that. Every single day, every moment of practice, just doing different versions of that where it's like, okay, now we're in this situation. Every team must get into a wing ball screen. But we're playing these games to 2, which creates that urgency. And the other thing that you connected with it is beyond making it representative of the game, which it is, because we know everyone throws around game speed. Well, game speed doesn't mean full intensity all the time, does it? And that's what we try and connect with these perfection drills. Oh, we got to be perfect and we got to go really hard and all this other stuff. But that's not the game. The game is filled with ups and downs, ebbs and flows, and all these different things. And your version of the game obviously connects that for players. And the biggest superpower of playing more basketball and playing more representative basketball is what you just said. It develops a competitive mindset that is representative of the game. You win, you lose, you fail, you succeed, and you have to learn how to cope with it, and you have to learn how to handle it. And those things can't be taught in any drill because they don't connect for a player and transfer that to the game. But you win or lose in those games, I imagine those players are happy or pissed, and they want to compete harder the next one, don't they?
100%. And then at the end we would go and do this for like 30 minutes. And at the end of 30 minutes, one team won 17 times and the other team won 12. And, and so there was that. You know what else we did? And it kind of, you fall into these things when you make up these games, as you know, is all of a sudden we said, okay, side out of bounds are really important. So we would start the 2 basket thing with a side out of bounds. Or if you're playing against someone that's pressing all the time, we'd start taking the ball out and the other team was in a press. And so you can start the game however you want, or teams playing a 2-3 zone. And you can make the constraints or the style of play you want, anything you want. But it was a different way of teaching. And I said, you know what? No one ever taught me like this. And it was so brilliant for me to learn.
And we've lost that, to be honest. That's what and I'm not saying there's a lot of really good coaches and there's a lot of coaches that have moved this direction. But I'm talking particularly in the youth space. There's very little of this being played in practice. Like any of this stuff, it's just memorized routines at practice. Yeah. And that doesn't help them develop the things that we all think they lack. Like from the commissioner of the NBA down to, the 7th grade AAU coach, they all say the same thing to us. They say that players do not have as high a basketball IQ as they should have. They all have skills and technique, but they don't have the IQ.
And I ask you, the authority, why is that?
Because we are very drill-based and not decision-based. What you just presented as that games to 2, that is very much situational basketball. It's beautiful. If coaches didn't know anything about basketball and they just did that in practice, players would get better. There's some ecological dynamics behind it. What that means is basically players will figure things out because you put them in situations rather than just explicitly always telling them. As soon as you tell them what to do, that player will do it, right? And that's not necessarily problem solving. That's just repeating a solution. So you have given them freedom in that context. Okay, you've got to go versus a press, game to 2. If you score, you're in press. We're going to start versus press. And here's the situation. And now let's figure it out. Now, Brennan, you're a good coach. Let them explore it. You created the environment, and I say the 3 E's. You created the environment. You're going to let them explore it. And then if they struggle, what are we going to do as a coach, Brennan?
We're going to correct it.
We're going to correct it.
We're going to teach. Yeah.
And all I'm trying to get coaches to understand is don't start from the teaching. Don't start from the explicit information. As soon as you give them very specific information, it becomes a limitation, in my opinion, rather than an affordance, right? We're not affording them the opportunity to explore solutions and figure out things. And you and I both have coached long enough to know that often the things that we are teaching now are things that our players have taught us. Oh, why are they doing it that way? Oh, wait, because they figured out a better solution, right? That's simple.
I love that. I love that. Now you're doing work with the NBA, especially in their quote unquote developmental area. You work a lot with colleges and different national federations across the globe. What have you tried to emphasize in your teachings? And the NBA, I know, is in a big push right now in the developmental phase. And I love my NBA people. They've given me everything that I have, but I get nervous about them. I get nervous about them because there's no one better promoting basketball in the world than the NBA. They are spectacular. But I think they fail. The one thing I do, this is not Chris Oliver, this is Brendan saying this, that I don't think, from my friend David Stern on, when they don't value coaching as much as they do, they think the player is the key. And the player is the key. But to teach the player how to do things and to coach him how to even become better. But when you go into all these different situations, Chris, whether it's with the NBA, whether it's federations or with high-level college teams, what are you trying to do? Because you're now changing thinking, I know.
Well, thank you. I'm trying, and I'm not trying from the perspective that I'm right. I'm trying from the perspective of experiential and evidence-based knowledge through the years, and having, accountability from people like yourselves and different thought leaders that I've shared this with. We've talked about it. We've thrown it at the wall. So it's like well-founded information at this point.
Sure.
That really all I'm trying to get them to do is to understand the difference between what transfers to the game and what doesn't. We've talked about that enough. To move from this drill-based culture to more of a decision-based culture, meaning create a drill around something that isn't something that they can memorize and regurgitate a solution, but rather something where there's possibilities within it, right? We'll start very simple. Let's start some 5-on-5 situation. Brendan's on offense. He's got the ball, let's say on the, on the 45, and I'm on his shoulder, the defender. So he's got a shoulder to chest advantage. So he's got an advantage going towards the rim. We play live from there. And now Brendan has a number of possibilities when he drives, right? He can drive and he can finish himself. But most importantly, what does he got to now do? He's got to scan his environment. It's scanning that we're lacking. We say, oh, players can't pass anymore. It's not because they can't throw a chest pass. It's because they can't scan because we don't put them in situations where they need to scan. That means I've got to account for 9 other things on the floor. Not just me versus my defender and then one primary help defender. I've got to scan all that. And that is a learned skill. That's a skill that can be developed. So most of the teams or most of the programs that I work with, we're encouraging them to go game-based, play more basketball to get better at basketball, create situations like you talked about, and then move away from this coach-controlled to more of a player-centered. And I'm not saying the player gets to do whatever they want. You hold them accountable. And I'll talk about that maybe a little bit later, but hold them accountable to what the principles of play are in your basketball program. What are the principles of play? What matter to you? There's probably 3 or 4 things that are principles of play on offense. And you know what? The beautiful thing is basketball is a game of opposites. So if I say shot selection is really important for offense and we want to shoot these type of shots, then chances are as a defense, we want to prevent those type of shots. So it's a real simple process to be able to say, I don't need to go coach 1,000 things in practice and 1,000 details in practice. Micro skills matter as you get up higher. I get that. But what we're talking about is framing it and saying, what is the whole? What is the whole of the experience that we need a player to be able to get? And that is this whole picture of scanning and being able to make a decision relative to themselves and their defender, but also relative to their teammates and the other help defenders. And that type of situation is really what we're trying to do. Excuse me. And the other thing is, just quickly move them away from copy and paste. Oh my gosh. Like, I know, like, how many people, like, if I post a play online or I post something online, say, oh, well, I do the ISO drill, or I do this drill, or I do that drill. I'm like, cool, you got that drill from them, but how have you adapted it? How have you made your own? And that is really the superpower for you as a coach. The drill is not the solution. You are the solution as a coach. Manipulate constraints, help players get better within that. And generally, all the NBA teams I presented to, or all the high-level college teams or lower-level college teams or youth programs federations, everyone aligns with it because it makes sense, right? Play more basketball to get better at basketball.
I think that's one of the biggest things I've noticed in the last several years. Every kid from high school up has their own trainer. And I've seen back, as opposed to when I was growing up, we didn't have trainers, obviously. All we did is played 5-on-5 or 3-on-3 or 4. We just played every day, whether it was in the winter shoveling off a court from snow or if you could ever get a gym. And now kids don't play 5-on-5.
Right.
So I that's why I think it's so important that we play a lot of basketball, because there's so much there at a high school level. 8 months of the year, the kid's not playing 5-on-5 for the most part. Then he goes in the summer and plays AAU ball, let's say, if he's old enough, and he might play 50 to 75 games in the summer. Doesn't have any practice, though, or anything like that.
None.
So how
except with the trainer, as you referenced, right? They're developing with the trainer.
1-on-0.
No.
1-on-0. But we're not, so I think it's such a difficult thing. And I know the NBA has this infatuation with the European model, right? The club model, if you want to call it that. But I've been over there. I've worked with the different major clubs in Europe from the youth level up. They teach the way you were talking about before. They're not teaching them decision making. They're telling them, this is what you're going to do. And they practice. They don't play that many games. They practice, but they give the rehearsal practice, so to speak. They tell you exactly what you're going to do when you're going to do the drills. They don't do this new wave of thinking and coaching. And so the model of more practice, less play, that's cool, but they're not teaching them the right way to practice. My observation, my experience.
Well, and I agree. And part of the challenge is obviously getting control of the calendar for these players, right? Like literally, and I feel for players. Like, one is everything's controlled by a parent or a coach, so they don't get these unstructured moments that you talked about. So I feel like we've got to meet them where they're at in that sense. So my youth teams come into practice, the first 10 minutes of practice, they self-organize and play basketball with no coaching and no parents.
Self-organize. Love that.
Just to try and simulate that situation of the playground that we all bemoan they don't have anymore. Well, why aren't we creating that environment more for them then? Because you know what we don't have to do, Brendan? What we used to have to do is teach them more individual skills, because they didn't learn it online. They didn't learn it from a trainer, right? But now they need to learn that. No, not from us. They're already learning that. They need to learn how to play basketball and apply those individual skills. And that's the power of a coach, I feel. And my thing is really just about valuing the coach more. And I say it all the time, the coach is the most valuable part of their learning process. We're the creator of their environment. And if we create an environment for them to be able to explore all of that individual technique that they've learned, then they will be a better player because they get a chance to explore and figure things out on their own. So absolutely, you nailed it. And, players need to play more, sure, but more in the context of the game in practice.
Tell me about, people will go on the NBA app and stuff and they'll see, junior basketball. And if you don't have a young kid in the house, okay, that's nice to have junior NBA. That's really cool. But tell our listeners, all over the world are listening in 100+ countries, tell what junior NBA is and what it should be about, et cetera, in a perfect world.
So the NBA has a youth basketball development division, which maybe most people don't know.
That's what I mean.
That's a division. Yeah. That's a division that's empowered with obviously trying to raise young fans in the game, of course. Sometimes it's junior NBA, junior WNBA is the first exposure for a kid somewhere in the world with playing any type of basketball. That's absolutely true. But then there's another branch. I mean, there's many branches of it, but there's another branch which is dealing with the elite space, which is working in conjunction with Nike, YBL, and working in this space of trying to develop the better pathway, better development for players in that elite space. And they have so many programs that people don't even know about, that they just do an incredible job of these different touch points. And it's not all about basketball development. They do life skills stuff. They do stuff where it's educating parents. It's just an absolutely incredible resource. And, and they're doing a much better job. And we're talking about this here. I think all organizations need to do a much better job in general celebrating coaches, not from just winning standpoint.
Yep, exactly.
Not just from winning, but from just literally, I had maybe not a great high school coach, but you know what? I had unbelievable respect for this person, because you know what they did? They showed up every day and they were there every day. And I'm like, that is half the battle, isn't it?
Yes.
I know, it's beautiful. And we tend to kind of like, coaches are like obviously the tipping point for a lot of people and the blame for different things that go on and stuff like that. But you know what? I mean, any coach that shows up and just puts time in, that's awesome. That's the starting point. The next point is, okay, now educate yourself, because you referred to it already in some context, but we're not using original iPhones anymore. Why are we still coaching with original iPhones? Let's move our coaching on. So much has adapted, so much has changed. And the players have changed, to be honest. So let's make the experience better for them and help them, again, achieve the goals that they want by filling in the blanks or the gaps for what they are not receiving on their on-air training or their individual training.
Boy, that's powerful, Chris. One of the things that, I try to think about all the time is the NBA is committed. And again, 47 years of my life has been influenced by the NBA. I owe them everything. So I love the NBA. I love the leadership of the NBA. They're friends. They are the most powerful voice in the world of basketball. The NBA says something, the NBA puts something online, people listen. It is phenomenal. And they have such resources, and with their app and everything, to really do a great job of trying to teach this game the right way. Their intentions are awesome. But it's really, really hard, because we have to change people's thinking. And that's the thing. And
it's so hard, isn't it?
and there's thousands of coaches just in the US. Hey, the majority of them don't agree with the way you and I want to teach it at the game. I know that. That's okay. And that's because they don't know. That's okay. But you and I share the same mission, I believe, totally, that we want to grow this game. We want to, if we can start with improving coaching around the world, the players will get better. If we have better coaching, the game will get better. And guess what? The end result, all of the world will understand that basketball in whatever country we're in, or in the NBA or in AAU, will become better. It's that disciplined approach of coaching will influence the players. If you have a great teacher in school, you will go to that class and be attentive and learn. If you have a poor teacher, you might cut class. You might not learn. That and I know it's a simplistic way of thinking. It's not a PhD thinking, but it's a truth thinking.
Look, the NBA is they're really making a push in this direction. And
I agree.
That's awesome. And we should all be excited for that.
Exactly.
The NBA in general, and coaching in the NBA, as you know, it's got incredibly better in every regard. College basketball's got better. Everything's got better. So it's not a lack of coaches kind of like putting work in. Now it's just kind of like thinking, okay, who are you learning from? Who are your resources? Look, you and me both, we'd love to sit in a room with Bill Self and hear from Bill Self. Incredible coach, maybe one of the greatest, if not the greatest college coach of all time. Unquestionable. I'm there with everyone. So there's no argument there. However, do those celebrity coaches study development? Do they study the way people learn? Do they study the way young people process information? No, they don't have to. That's not their role. That's not their job. So like the best NBA coach in the world and the best college coach in the world aren't necessarily the best resource to learn how to teach the game, because they're not in those levels where they have to really deal with a player that, okay, they can't figure this out because it's new to them, or they've never learned this before. They've never been exposed to this before. And that's where I think resources like yours and mine can be much more powerful for people than just this one-off to learn, okay, this one-off DVD about how Bill Self runs a high post offense. Like, again, nothing wrong with that, but that's not the solution. That's not the solution. Learning how to teach better is the solution. Then you can run whatever you want.
I love Mark Dagnall, the coach of OKC Thunder, who I've known for years and who's paid all these dues of what he's done. But he works in an organization that just thrives on people getting better and becoming the best at their job, no matter what job you have there. And when he won the Western Conference Finals the other day, he made a great statement. He said, everyone in this organization for 17 years that Sam Presti has led it is committed to creating an environment where we get better. Having the experience you're here be the best you've ever experienced. And it's the first time I've ever heard the word environment in coaching.
Now it's the second time.
Right? And I said, wow, this is, I never heard a coach in a post-game press conference talk about the environment. No, so learning was taking place. He's got the funnest team to coach because they're all aligned in learning and getting better and having fun. I don't know if I see a team that has more fun post-game celebration than those guys, and I think it's because that environment that Sam Presti and Mark Dagnall have created, and I think it's fabulous. Just love it.
Well, and let's build on that for all coaches. It's like they're not trying to win. What they're trying to do is build an environment where you can improve daily. Well, what does that lead to, Brennan?
Winning, improvement of your play, becoming the best, and the end result becomes the outcome is winning.
Yeah, absolutely. So
the engagement is incredible. The process of everyday learning and improvement is there, and I think that process is a key word.
And I'll just say this: Mark presented at a junior NBA clinic in San Francisco at All Star this weekend that I moderated, and I got to interview him for about 20 minutes, and he echoes almost everything that we've said here. Like, he really does come from this school where he understands this, he applies this, he understands that players need a safe space to explore. That again, he is a creator of the environment. He is not this old man on the mountain telling you what to do type of thing.
He's not. If you watch him on the sideline, a guy will come down, he'll take a 3-point shot, he'll throw the ball out of bounds. There's no one screaming, yelling, bad body language. He's stoic almost in his thing, allowing players to succeed and fail. That's like being a parent. If you scream and yell every mistake they make, every time they spill the chocolate milk on the rug, I always say, every now and then it happens. My dog makes a mess. I got to clean it up. Okay. And you know what? I'm not getting rid of the dog. Okay. It just had an accident.
The dog's not trying to make the mess. Like, again, the dog's not trying to do something to you, right? Just like a player's not trying to miss a shot.
It was raining outside and the dog couldn't go out. Okay. It's my fault. It
adapted.
Yes. And so I just think this is a new wave of thinking. Chris, I can't compliment you enough on what you're doing. But you know what? You and I could, we've done it for so long as far as talking about this. For those of us that hopefully were stimulated by things you were talking about, Basketball Immersion is one of the great learning sites. I love it. I've been on it since the day you started. Tell our listeners how they can become part of your community there.
Well, first of all, I would love for coaches, if you enjoyed anything here, I'd love for you to tag Coaching You and at B-Ball Immersion and tag us on Twitter or on Instagram or wherever it is, and just tag something that you learned or something that you want to learn more about. I mean, part of this is we're just trying to generate conversation where we can all improve, right? So that would be number one for me. And then secondly, if you're interested in something, I'm here to sell, not share, or to share, not sell. But man, if you want to join our community, there's been 10,000 plus coaches around the world at all levels of basketball that have learned from us. BasketballImmersion.com. Go there, check it out. But if you want, DM me. I respond to everything. I'm sure you do too, Brennan. I respond to everything. Just DM me. Ask me some questions. We have staff memberships. We have individual memberships. We have promo codes. We have a whole bunch of things. And I just want to help learning. I mean, you've been here in your life, Brennan. We're just so fortunate to be able to have this opportunity, to be able to give back, to be able to share, to be able to support coaches. And I love what I do. But clearly at the same time, we're trying to get people to be able to invest in themselves and invest in their learning, because that investment leads to a better outcome for them, but also a better outcome for players, because the best player development is coach development. So don't be afraid of investment. Investment will pay off and you'll have a better experience in your coaching. And I just really hope coaches start to get beyond that point, to be able to kind of think beyond just the number and say, how much value is it going to bring back to me? Whether it's a Coaching U product or a basketball immersion product, let's go. Let's get coaching better.
Chris, I can't thank you enough. The great Chris Oliver, Basketball Immersion. Please follow him, learn more. I'll tell you what, you think you're smart now, you won't believe what will happen in a short time. You got to get better every day, and he helps me get better. Chris, thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Much love. And thank you to everyone who listened.